What if I told you that the WWE superstars you've been cheering for, the athletes you've idolized, the champions your kids look up to, were all part of the biggest open secret in sports entertainment history? And what's even more infuriating is that WWE knew about it, turned a blind eye to it, and in some cases encouraged it. Welcome to Wrestle Scope, where we expose the truth the wrestling world doesn't want you to know. And trust me, after watching this video, you'll never look at professional wrestling the same way again. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 11 WWE superstars who medically enhance their bodies, and the shocking reality is that this isn't just about breaking rules. It's about shattered lives, destroyed families, and a company that prioritized profits over people. Hello viewers, if you're new here, please don't forget to like and hit that subscribe button for daily updates on WWE Raw. The culture of enhancement. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth that nobody in WWE's corporate offices wants to acknowledge. Professional wrestling has had a steroid problem since the 1980s, and it's not just a problem, it's practically been a job requirement. Picture this. You're a young wrestler trying to make it to the big leagues. You're talented, you're dedicated, you train 6 days a week. But then you look around the locker room and everyone is absolutely massive. We're talking about guys with arms bigger than your legs, shoulders that don't fit through doorways, and physiques that seem to defy human biology. And here's the kicker. The guys getting pushed to the main event, the ones getting the title shots, the wrestlers making millions of dollars, they're the ones who look like they were created in a laboratory. So what choice do you have? Either you enhance or you're stuck in the mid-card forever, or worse, you're released. This is the toxic culture that WWE created, and 11 superstars on our list today paid the ultimate price for buying into this system. Number 11, Brian Pillman. Let's kick things off with the loose cannon Brian Pillman. Now, Brian was incredibly talented, one of the most innovative wrestlers of the 1990s. But behind that wild persona was a man desperately trying to maintain a physique that the business demanded. Pillman used multiple substances to keep his body in peak condition. But here's where it gets tragic. After a devastating car accident in 1996 that nearly ended his career, Brian became dependent on painkillers just to function. Combine that with his previous enhancement regimen, and you have a lethal cocktail. On October 5, 1997, Brian Pillman was found dead in his hotel room at just 35 years old. The cause? Heart disease, exacerbated by years of substance use. He left behind a wife and 5 children. 35 years old. Let that sink in. And you want to know what's disgusting? WWE continued to profit from his image and legacy while doing nothing to address the culture that contributed to his death. Number 10, Davey Boy Smith. The British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, a man who was absolutely beloved by fans worldwide and possessed legitimate superhuman strength. But that strength came at a cost that nobody talks about. Davey Boy was open about his steroid use later in life, admitting that the pressure to maintain his massive physique led him down a dangerous path. His body began breaking down in his 30s. Multiple injuries, heart problems, and substance dependency became his new reality. In May 2002, while on vacation with his family in British Columbia, Davey Boy Smith died from a heart attack. He was only 39 years old. His daughter, Georgia, was just 10. His son, Harry, was 12. They had to grow up without their father because the wrestling business chewed him up and spit him out. And WWE's response? Minimal. No major policy changes. No real accountability. Just another tragedy swept under the rug. Number 9, Rick Rude. Ravishing Rick Rude had one of the most impressive physiques in wrestling history. His body was his gimmick, and he was pushed because of how he looked. But maintaining that look required serious pharmaceutical assistance. Rick suffered a severe back injury in 1994 that effectively ended his in-ring career. The combination of painkillers for his injury and the long-term effects of enhancement drugs created a dangerous situation. On April 20, 1999, Rick Rude died from heart failure at his home. He was 40 years old. 40 years old. Think about that. Most people at 40 are just hitting their stride in life. Rick Rude was dead, leaving behind 3 children and a devastated family. And why? Because the wrestling business demanded he look a certain way. And when his body couldn't take it anymore, the business moved on without him. Where was WWE when Rick needed support? Where was the wellness program? Where was the accountability? Number 8. Chris Benoit. Now we enter the most controversial territory. Chris Benoit. I know what you're thinking, and yes, we're going there, because this conversation demands we address the elephant in the room. Chris Benoit's body was a chemical laboratory. Multiple investigations after the murder-suicide tragedy in 2007 revealed extensive steroid use throughout his career. But it wasn't just steroids. The autopsy showed his brain had the damage equivalent of an 85-year-old Alzheimer's patient due to repeated concussions. The combination of brain damage, steroid use, and other substances created a perfect storm that led to unspeakable tragedy. Nancy Benoit and 7-year-old Daniel Benoit lost their lives, and Chris took his own life shortly after. This isn't about making excuses for the inexcusable, but it is about understanding that WWE's culture of enhancement and their negligent handling of concussions contributed to this nightmare. They knew wrestlers were hurting themselves. They knew about the concussions. They knew about the substance abuse, and they did nothing until it was too late. How many more families have to be destroyed before we demand accountability? Number 7. Eddie Guerrero. Latino Heat. Eddie Guerrero. One of the most talented performers in WWE history, and someone who was open about his struggles with addiction and enhancement. Eddie got clean in 2001 after WWE released him due to his substance abuse issues. He fought his demons, came back stronger, and won the WWE Championship at No Way Out 2004 in one of the most emotional moments in wrestling history. He was living his dream, he was clean, and he was finally at peace. But the damage was already done. Years of steroid use, combined with previous substance abuse, had weakened his heart. On November 13, 2005, Eddie Guerrero was found dead in his hotel room in Minneapolis. Heart failure. He was 38 years old. Eddie left behind his wife Vicky and 3 daughters. His nephew Chavo found him that morning and had to live with that trauma forever. And while Eddie's story is often told as one of redemption, it's also a story of a system that destroyed him long before he had the chance to truly save himself. WWE built Mania moments on Eddie's back, made millions from his merchandise, and when he died, they mourned publicly while privately changing nothing about the culture that killed him. Number 6. Ultimate Warrior. The Ultimate Warrior, Jim Hellwig, one of the most iconic figures in WWE history with a physique that defied logic. Those massive arms, that incredible vascularity, the seemingly limitless energy, none of that was natural. Warrior was very open later in life about his use of steroids, stating that everyone in wrestling during the 1980s and 90s was using them. But he also downplayed the dangers, which made his death even more tragic and ironic. On April 8, 2014, just 3 days after being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame and 2 days after his final appearance on Raw, the Ultimate Warrior collapsed while walking to his car with his wife in Arizona. Massive heart attack. Dead at 54. 54 years old. His wife witnessed him die right in front of her. His 2 daughters lost their father just as he was reconciling his legacy with WWE. And while 54 is better than the others on this list, it's still far too young. And it's directly connected to decades of enhancement that WWE facilitated. Number 5. Test. Andrew Martin, known as Test, was the perfect example of WWE's obsession with size. At 6'6" and nearly 300 pounds of muscle, Test looked like a superhero. But maintaining that size required constant chemical assistance. Test's career was plagued by injuries, and like so many others, he became dependent on painkillers and continued using enhancement drugs even after leaving WWE. His friends later revealed he was struggling with depression and substance abuse. On March 13, 2009, Test was found dead in his Tampa apartment. The cause was an accidental overdose of oxycodone. He was 33 years old. 33! He should have been in the prime of his life. Instead, he was another casualty of a system that valued appearance over health. Test never got a WWE Hall of Fame induction. He barely gets mentioned in WWE retrospectives. He's been largely forgotten by the company that helped create the circumstances of his death. And that's perhaps the most insulting part of all. Number 4. Miss Elizabeth. Now let's talk about someone who breaks the typical narrative. Miss Elizabeth, the First Lady of Wrestling, wasn't a wrestler, but she was absolutely part of WWE's enhancement culture. Elizabeth Hillette was married to Randy Savage and was under constant pressure to maintain her appearance. The stress of the wrestling business, combined with toxic relationships and the availability of substances, led her down a dark path. On May 1, 2003, Elizabeth was found dead in the home she shared with Lex Luger. The cause was acute toxicity from a combination of painkillers and vodka. She was 42 years old. Investigation revealed numerous medications in the house, many of which were not prescribed to her. What's absolutely infuriating is that Elizabeth's death could have been prevented. Everyone around her knew she was struggling. WWE knew the toxic environment they had created, but nobody stepped in to help until it was too late. Her death is proof that WWE's enhancement culture didn't just destroy the wrestlers, it destroyed everyone in their orbit. Number 3. Road Warrior Hawk. Michael Hegstrand, better known as Road Warrior Hawk, was one half of the legendary